may not always love you, but long as there are stars above you, you never need to doubt it. I'll make you so sure about it. God only knows what I do.
Alright, well, for the final time, welcome back to Countdown to Destruction. This is episode 14 of 14. If you are listening to this at the intended time of release, then The Leftovers was not prophetic. The end of the world is not coming on October 14th, 2018, because that should be the date that this comes out. This is our Leftovers podcast. My name is Matt Waters. I have been viewing this content for the very first time. I have now seen it all. So that makes me every bit as qualified to talk about it as Ben Phillips, who had seen it all when we started, and now has seen it all for a third time, or something like that.
This is the fourth time I've seen the finale.
Wow, okay, wow, that makes you very qualified. Ben, how are you, other than like horrifically ill, as I have been and almost everyone is at the moment?
I am good. I am ill, though, and this meant I wasn't like as emotionally involved in this finale as I was previously, because I was like breathing into tissues through half of it.
That's fair, that's absolutely fair. So let's talk about one of your favourite shows, because we've got a heck of a lot to get through as this show attempts to stick the landing after everything we've talked about for the last 13 weeks. So let's start with Season 3, Episode 7, The Most Powerful Man in the World, brackets, and his identical twin brother. This aired May 28th of 2017, written by Damon Lindelof and Nick Cuse, directed by Craig Zobel. Now, what did this trio cook up the last time they were all in these positions, Ben?
Last time they did International Assassin.
Interesting. We'll see what happens. Your opening song this week is the awful Season 1 opening credits song.
I am going to say I really enjoy the juxtaposition of
those songs give those opening credits different sort of... Not all of them, but some of them give those opening credits a completely different spin. Like, some of them make it seem... Like, you focus more on what a happy, nice photo it is, and you're like, oh, someone's missing. And some of them are like, someone is missing. Like, it's all
this is very much that one.
Indeed. Right, so, when we last left everyone, it was Laurie out on the high seas on the day of the 15th in Australia, the 14th in America. The 7-year anniversary is here. Kevin has agreed to be drowned, to go to the other side, do his magical, mystical gift, speak to Christopher Sunday, get the song lyrics so Kevin Sr. can stop the second flood that will wipe us all out. We'll see how that all works out. So after a brief flashback of Kevin and Nora taking a bath during happier times, Kevin attempts to drown himself, but his father and the others wake up from being drugged by Laurie in the previous episode, and they rescue him, much to his chagrin. But then when he confirms everything they wanted to ask the dead, they resubmerge him. Basically, that was all for exposition in many ways, where he just brings everyone up to speed on what everyone around him has in the game. But let's talk about this bath. It's so warm, so lovely. You know, after going through the emotional heartache of these two crazy kids in love breaking up, we get possibly their most wholesome, lovely, cute scene they ever have as they sit in this bath at candlelight together and talk about how they want their bodies to be disposed of when they die, and Nora wants to be cremated despite Matt's wishes, and Kevin's like, yeah, fuck Matt, we'll burn you good. And then Kevin wants to be stuffed.
Yep.
And Nora, I mean, she was already forever number one because of the Wu-Tang band, but when she says that she's going to put a beard on it because I'm the one that has to have sex with that abomination, so I'm going to dress it up however I want. What a line. As Nora is this just whimsical woman child. We hear man child a lot. Nora is in some ways a woman child. It's just so cute. And like her putting the little bubble beard on herself. And he's like, you want me to grow a beard? Because this scene is pre-beard. So I don't know if it's their house in Mapleton before they moved, or when they got to Jarden but he hadn't quite grown the beard in. I don't know, but it's happier times.
I assume this is pre-Jarden and also pre-Christine coming to take away.
Well, Christine came, like, in the 3 years.
Yeah. So I'm saying it's, like, in that time where, like, Kevin has had his adventures in the other world.
Oh, okay. So still in Jarden, but
we're just
somewhere in those 3 years before he grows his beard and before Lily is taken, when they're all just so happy. Yeah, so that's just to sort of set your scene a little bit and just give you this. Let's say that this is Kevin's constant. So yeah, they put him back under, and a beardless Kevin washes ashore on an exotic beach with the same musical stinger that played when he went to the hotel. He is saved from a huge Russian man who's trying to kill him. I think he's Russian. By Dean, who is now some kind of special agent. And he briefs Kevin Harvey on his mission to assassinate the President of the United States before he can start an unsanctioned nuclear war. Wow, I love it, I love it, I love it. We go from, weird spy hotel to the opening to a really shitty Bond film or a Bond knockoff or whatever. And I just love that all of these are just born out of Kevin's, juvenile, pretty, milquetoast imagination. It's all just the most basic entry-level version of everything. And it's intentionally made as a bad action film because that's where it's coming from. I fucking love it.
Yeah, and it's that kind of dream logic where pretty much every single character in this is someone who Kevin has met or knows about, which is obviously there's another important rule to that, but it is quite funny where when you watch these and it's just every single person is it's populated by this. So
yeah.
Dean is just someone who he knew in life, and so of course it's Dean that comes in with a parachute and shoots the Russian guy in the back of the head.
I still love that he's called Kevin Harvey because that's the laziest cover name he could possibly conjure.
Well, the thing is, they explain away the fact that what he calls himself Kevin Garvey in the second episode, doesn't he? In the finale, where there are two of these people running around, and the show manages to incorporate that somehow into its twisted world.
Now, in this version, in the first version, it was don't drink the water. And our weird little rule this time, our high concept, is don't look in any reflective surfaces. And Dean smashes every bit of glass or reflective anything in Kevin's little beach hut home, apparently.
Like a novel.
Yes, where he is writing a terrible romance novel on his typewriter. We'll keep that in mind. Kevin also... Dean says the reflective surfaces are how they found you last time. And I believe this is what prompts Kevin to look at his chest, which has this scar that we've never seen before. So, pins in things. So Kevin makes this demand of Dean. He's a smart dude. He's got an objective, and while he's been thrown a very weird premise, he's like, right, I should probably try and accomplish this. I want to speak to Evie, I want to speak to Christopher Sunday, and I want to speak to Grace's kids. And Dean's like, well... if you want to speak to the Prime Minister of Australia, Christopher Sunday, again, Kevin, your imagination is amazing, then it must be cleared with the boss, the big boss. And he puts in this little earpiece, and who is speaking to him but David Burton himself, possibly God, who tells him to look into a piece of the shattered mirror. And upon doing so, he finds himself in the role of the President. So... Christopher Sunday is the Prime Minister of Australia. Again, Kevin, just with the laziest casting of all these fantastical roles. I love that, because Kevin hasn't met the real-life David Burton while he's conscious, but that is who is speaking to him because he has fulfilled this role of some higher power before, and to prove he knows him, he starts singing Homeward Bound at him, and we see that little quick flash of the end of Season 2 with the karaoke and stuff. I thought that was really effective.
Yeah. Also get the revelation of what he whispered to him on the bridge.
Yes, he said, "You are the most powerful man in the world." He says, "You goddamn right you are." Not the thing that I imagined he was saying when he spoke. In that scenario, that didn't even make any sense.
Was
it basically saying, "Hey, you control all of this, so that's why she's not fighting you, and you can do whatever you want."
Yeah, it was Justin Theroux was apparently told they didn't know what the line was going to be when they wrote the scene.
Yeah.
But Damon Lindelof told him on set and was just we want something vaguely messianic
that gives you the affirmation, "Hey, you're in charge here."
Yeah, or you have bigger things to do.
This. You are the chosen one.
Yeah, I'm trying to figure out. Yeah, so Justin Theroux was told should be the equivalent of God wanted me to tell you that you've got your work cut out for you, that kind of he is.
Okay,
he is Jesus, kind of
a mission from God. Well, he's not
yes.
Jesus, but the beard does look good on him.
It does.
Speaking of the beard, when he does occupy this body of the president, his beard is back, and that is how you are going to tell the difference between the two Kevins in this episode. Assassin Kevin Harvey is dressed in black and is clean-shaven-ish, and President Garvey is in all white and has the big, sexy dad beard.
Who else wears all white, Matthew?
Indeed, he is wearing a white suit because we saw previously when he came to this world, Patty Levin was a senator and she was campaigning as the head of the GR party. She wanted to run for president. Well, Kevin beat her to it because he is the president and he is affiliated with the GR, and there's a big rally, everyone's wearing white, and he's talking about their message and, you know, how they outlawed marriage. And on the teleprompter it says "Good Day Melbourne," which is the title of an episode, and we get more of Kevin just being awful at reading out loud as he tries to follow this teleprompter, and at times he just outright ignores the instructions on it. It's like, point to children in front row, and he doesn't do it. I'm the president, and then they will just clap for him. Yeah, and in the front row are Grace's kids. Liam Playford, well, he didn't win, but he was one of the finalists of this essay contest that the GR put out there into the world, and it's "Why I Don't Need My Mummy and Daddy Anymore," or something like that. And he notices the kids aren't wearing shoes, and he asks them, because this was part of the mystery of these kids. They didn't find their shoes, and Grace is like going through all these donation bags and stuff. It's like, why does it matter? Like, you know, nothing matters. Family doesn't matter, etc. So,
but also it's like a point to like the mother, where it's just like, your kids are dead.
Don't fixate on this. Like, you finding their shoes isn't going to magically spirit them back or give you a release.
It's not going to answer what happened to them.
Yeah, just because your kids are gone doesn't mean you should put on a bulletproof vest and pay hookers to shoot you. Like, that's not going to fix anything, Nora. Sorry. Yeah, so they spent some money here, really, didn't they? Like, Kevin at this, like, massive political rally and, like, all these extras. I love this, you know, like, the hotel, obviously that was bigger budget looking than the rest of the series typically is, but this is a whole nother level. Like, they basically made a shitty TV movie, but still, shitty TV movies are made for more money than TV shows, I would imagine.
Unless you're Game of Thrones, in which case you get to swing your big dick around.
It's not television. It's HBO.
So is this, Matt.
That's true, but this is HBO that they were like, oh, you better fucking finish your story. Anyway, in the middle of this big, wonderful presidential rally, who shows up to protest but Evie, wearing a red shirt, and she is escorted away by Kevin's security team. He insists that Evie come with him, and he passes on John's message, and as they're arguing, Kevin starts coughing up water, and the limo then begins to flood. The weather has been worsening all the time. And then he wakes up and is being dragged inside by John and Michael, because the storm in the real world, we'll call it that, is getting really, really bad. So they're taking him inside because he's going to just wash away. So, Evie is singing "Love Will Keep Us Together," which is, of course, the song that Matt was playing on his tape every day to try and wake Mary, and Nora was like not a fan of it, so turned it off. So that was a nice little touch. Doesn't really make a huge amount of thematic or like plot sense, but it was just like a fun little nod.
I mean, thematically it does.
Yeah, "Love Will Keep Us Together." Yeah, okay. I just mean, like, I don't know. Kevin Yarborough is his chief of security. Basically, they're in Australia. They have Australian actors. He was decent enough. Let's bring him in. I think he's actually much better here than he is at being a dickhead cop. But yeah, he's pretty funny in this.
Yeah, he's pretty good, lovingly staring at pieces of anatomy.
Yes, Kevin receives the instruction over the phone about how they're going to take him to the secure bunker. And only his unique biometrics can unlock it. And he says, unless you had an identical twin brother, but that would be ridiculous.
This show.
Playing into David Burton saying how Jesus had an identical brother. You know, the most powerful man in the world and his identical twin brother. Like, that's your link here. And again, it speaks to Kevin's just a base level ability to represent things through allegory. It's like, what if my two sides were represented as physical people, and it's like, oh, the president's identical brother's an assassin, he's gonna kill him. Like, I love it. I love it as an exercise in shit narrative. In this world, Evie's family were killed by a drone strike rather than her, and she's, you know, like, what the fuck are you talking about? Giving her one last scene, basically, after I complained. Like, you know, they just killed her off immediately. And amidst her many sort of barbs she throws at him, she asks a very poignant question. What do you want? which is something that he will be asked more than once in this episode. I think it's this episode. Michael basically says, what do you want? Or, why would you do this? It's this one. He says, why would you do this?
Undercover, he's going into this other world for all these other people. He's going in to talk to Evie and find out what happened to the shoes and talk to Christopher Cousin.
He's being their martyr. He is doing all this for them.
But then you also get, as the episode goes along, the revelation that he isn't doing this for altruistic reasons. He's doing it because Kevin is a selfish man. Well, really.
Kind of, yeah. We'll get into the finer points of that. When she asks, what do you want? And as the water starts coming in, we get this montage of basically all of his significant actions to date. And when she says, what do you want? You get this linger on him with the bag over his head. And, he said he does it because it's like a feeling of being alive. And I think he said that, when he's done this, it's the most alive he's ever felt, when he's gone to the hotel and stuff. So, yeah, it's this desire to escape. Kevin has runaway tendencies, and he's literally running away from life and trying to chase this high, I guess, is the thing they're going for here.
Yes.
Anyway, Kevin tries again, this time in Grace's bath. He is now at the security bunker. He passes an eye scan, he passes a penis scan, and he answers some security questions. Don't worry, we will come back to that. And once inside, his Secretary of Defense, Patty, briefs him on the situation that a Ukrainian submarine has put them on the brink of nuclear war, and she wants him to lower the DEFCON level to 1 or raise it, depending on how you look at that. But the bad one, basically. So, as I said, Michael's saying that's not why he's doing this, and Kevin's like, why else would I be doing this? And we then get that quick flash of the bath scene from earlier with Nora and him in the bath. So there's ways to read this. It's does he think if he succeeds and does all of this stuff that he will magically end up back with Nora? If he fixes everything and exercises his demons and fulfills his purpose, then he can just be with this woman, and that's what's been getting in the way? Or is it more he kind of wants to die and he thinks that he can relive that moment forever if he's... I don't know. But it's an interesting... What do you want? And then you see Nora, and all of his actions are sort of taking him away from Nora, kind of thing.
Yeah, he is someone who doesn't know what he wants and is slowly coming to terms with maybe this place isn't healthy.
No. Weird that it would take this long. As Kevin Sr., puts him back under, fully clothed. He was fully clothed before, but it's just when you see him going into a bath fully clothed. And he looks a fucking wreck when they're doing this, because he tells John that he spoke to Evie, and John's he probably shouldn't do this, look at him. And Kevin Senior's well, now you've got what you wanted, now you give a shit about him, which is probably a fair comment. But yeah, Kevin Senior basically locks them out, and he says, I love you, son, to Kevin, and then dunks him back under, and it's a nice little tender moment between these two as Kevin is babbling his weird shit, and he's like, am I supposed to know what that means? It's just a nice little moment for the Kevins. So when he's back, I like the little touch that he coughs up just that tiny little bit of water, and I know it's because this entire dream world, it's bent around his will or whatever, but just the fact that people just completely underreact to this man coughing water up repeatedly. It's oh, you right? Yeah, I'm fine. So, the penis scanner. With plastic surgery, anyone can make their face look like anyone, but they're not going to go to these lengths. So,
lengths?
Yes, and it's the way that when you press the button, the penis weigher, it just sort of flops down and bounces a little. It's really cheap. It's like that kind of thing. And then when he puts his dick on it, there's a little thud. And Kevin Yarbrough looks at it, smirking. And, when he went to this world the first time, the security man was like, congratulations, sir. And I know, behind the scenes, it's kind of we want to embarrass Justin Theroux because the internet are obsessed with his bulge. But the narrative thing is, Kevin knows he has a big dick, so, he makes the whole thing about that.
Yep.
That's his, I know I've got a big dick, fuck you. And, he reacts to it with, annoyance and everything, but, you conjured up a thing where only your giant penis can get you into this door.
Some would say it was some kind of metaphor.
Yes.
So I'm just going to read this excerpt from an interview Damon Lindelof did with Uproxx after the finale.
Fair enough.
the penis scanner. How much pleasure do you take in this particular running gag about Theroux's manhood and putting it into the show over and over again and then doing that, like on a scale of 1 to 14 inches? Yes.
Nice. So yeah, in this very serious show that's building towards a finale, that is a major plot point. So the security...
The thud is amazing.
The second thud is even louder. I love it.
But it's just like they had to go to someone and be like, can you make a sound effect for
we
Justin
need a Foley
Theroux's penis?
artist for a dick flopping. It needs to be like 10% bigger. No, bigger, thicker. That's the one.
This show.
His security questions. His childhood pet, he didn't have one because his mother was allergic. His favourite movie, The Godfather Part 2. Obviously, a big part of International Assassin was inspired by The Godfather, and he's a basic man, you know. Like that's his favourite film. It's not that it's bad; it's a very cliche answer, and this whole scenario is cliche, kind of, except for the dick thing. And the third one is very interesting because it's not so much a question as a command, and it's name your Secretary of Defense. And after a big pause, he just goes, Pat 11. And the phrasing of it, of name them, it lends to this idea that basically he is conjuring this, or it is manifesting around his will and it's just reacting to what he does kind of thing, as opposed to he is a player in someone else's game. And that will be confirmed for us shortly, but I thought the phrasing of the question when I heard it for the first time, I was like, whoever he says is going to be it.
Like he gets to choose this one.
Rather than do you know yourself and it's going to be this person, it's tell me who it is, basically.
Yeah, like he technically breaks the rules of this world he's given because he resurrects someone who we know that he killed.
Yeah, sure did. And there she is, back in all white. I don't know if it's supposed to be basically the exact same Senator Levin sort of thing, but yeah, there she is as his Secretary of Defense. And
I mean, they mention that he brought her out of retirement, and then it cuts to the scene from International Assassin where he's like holding her underwater, and it's like implied that he has called her back from wherever
resting place she was.
Yeah.
Back to Limbo you go. Yeah, and she shows him around the bunker and into this like little conference room or whatever. The oil painting of Kevin is glorious in how sort of tacky it is. I'm a big fan of that. And there are two briefcases, one black, one white, and she says, pray we don't have to use the other one. And yeah, that's the one that contains the book, right?
I believe so.
Yeah. Anyway.
So I do want to ask, so going into this episode, Ann Dowd is credited as a regular. She's in the opening credits.
Will she return to the rankings? She's not on them, but I can probably bullshit.
Well, that wasn't what I was going to ask.
Oh,
so
okay.
I was just wondering whether or not you saw her in the credits before.
Oh, okay. No, yeah, because I remember when I was watching it, I texted you and you were like, "Oh, you're paying attention to the credits." Or something
yeah.
Like that. And I actually wasn't. It's just that I saw something, and I don't remember what it was now. But
you mentioned Liv Tyler's name, and I was like, "Oh,
yeah."
You realised Liv Tyler was still in the credits?"
No, it was more that I didn't realise she ever came out of them, and I just assumed, oh, they've been crediting her for the whole season because she's in one episode. Or
yeah, that's why I was just like, if you paid attention to that, did you miss Ann Dowd's credit, or did you notice Ann Dowd got a credit in this one?
Well, I guess I would have assumed the same thing. Although
she was still credited on a season where she has not appeared yet.
Okay, yeah, that would have broken it. No, I wasn't paying attention, but yeah, that was a fair assumption to make.
Because I wasn't paying attention to credits. I heard the song that they chose. I was like, this is fun. Didn't read any of the names, and then
I would have had to have been paying attention to the credits for the other 6 episodes for me to notice that.
Yeah,
basically, I wasn't.
Yeah, I think I got to like a moment about 2 seconds beforehand. I was just like, oh my god, Ann Dowd's going to show up. Oh my god, Ann Dowd's going to show up, and I just got so excited because that was the one thing that I felt was slightly off about season 3 was that they didn't get their last scene, and they already got to have their last scene in the end in season 2.
Oh, they got 8 last scenes.
I know they do, and it's so good is that every single year there is a new final scene between Patty and Kevin.
Yeah. So we mentioned Liv Tyler, who shows up, but the vice president, Meg, who claims that they're working off bogus intel, and Patty admits that they are not trying to prevent war, but they are instead plotting the nuclear annihilation of the entire world on the 7-year anniversary of the Grand Departure. And Meg points out the Fisher Protocol will prevent this. We'll explain that in a minute. But Patty and Kevin confirm that his identical twin brother is on his way, and this will allow their goal to be completed. I do find it interesting that, like, even in this like high fantasy world, the sudden departure is still like very much a fact of life. You know, like you would think on some level it would be separate. I don't know, but I can't really remember if it came up at all in the International Assassin, but in a world where that didn't happen, there wouldn't be a GR, so yeah, I guess it must have. But
yeah,
I like that he can't escape that.
So another question I have for you now is,
sure.
When he says...
Did I think it was going to be Laurie? Yes.
Did you think it was going to be Laurie?
Yes.
Or did you think it was going to be Nora?
No, I thought it was going to be Laurie.
I thought it was going to be Laurie.
Because as we talked about in Certified, she goes under... There was talk before that that's how you should kill yourself because it can go wrong in ways that people wouldn't realise. And, you know, Laurie had sort of come to her wit's end a bit. So it was left ambiguous her fate. And I was like, this is it. This is going to confirm she's dead because only dead people are here. And Nora's alive. So it's going to have to be Laurie. And then in walks Meg. And I was like, I mean, I guess it's like the only other person he knows. Like, I really don't understand why he would conjure Meg in this scenario. But
well, that's the thing.
Because they weren't close, really. Like, she kind of like checked him out a little bit when he came asking about her. But other than that, they don't get on. It just feels like they wanted Liv Tyler back.
Yeah, it does a little bit. It's an odd choice. I do think it's one of the weirdest things. Is I'm happy they didn't choose Laurie because I feel like that.
Well, then she would have been dead.
Yeah. That basically confirms it. I think that takes away some of the fun.
It would have been a good way to confirm she's dead, though.
It would have been.
Even if, especially if you then didn't have her appear in the finale, and it's just like, well, was Kevin just imagining this? Or...
Yeah, we never get a definitive answer. But it is nice to have Liv Tyler around, and
yeah, and you know, to have her basically fight Patty because they didn't really interact that much. Like, you know, Patty took her in and everything, but Patty was kind of out of the equation by the time Meg started to rear her head as a more powerful force, so it's kind of like the figureheads of both iterations of the GR facing off, and Kevin sort of caught between them. Yeah, so Patty, during this, she claims this is what everybody wants, even though they won't admit it. So it's, again, this... Like, Kevin Sr. gave this idea of, like, you know, no one is actually wondering why we were left behind. It's this idea that the whole world is just... Like, the world ended, everyone's super depressed, whether they admit it or not. And deep down, everyone just wants to make the world fully over. To die and potentially go be with the people that went away. If this is actually the final mission of the GR, their grand plan, if they had it their way, would be to just blow the world up, then, hey... That's the thing.
Does that make you like the GR more, that they've got like an actual...
No, of course not. They're stupid idiots. It's just I like it as because she kept hammering the idea that like the world ended to Kevin, so Kevin has blown this out into a let's blow up the world. So I like it as a sort of extension and like grandiose version of, or a monstrous version of what they were doing, even though they were already pretty monstrous. When Meg brings up the Fisher Protocol, and he's like, "Oh, you know about that? Prove it." In like fucking child tactics of, "Oh, I know what you're talking about, but you should say it just so that I know we're both saying the same thing." Amazing. So the Fisher Protocol was a real thing that was proposed, I learned doing my research for this. And it's essentially a volunteer would have nuclear launch key or codes or something surgically placed behind his heart. And in the event the president wanted to launch nukes, he would have to cut a person open and kill them, basically, to do it, so that they would be forced to confront the value of human life right there and then, rather than just pressing a button or whatever. So that was a real thing that was proposed by, I believe he's like an academic, like he's a law professor or something. And
is his name Fisher?
Yeah.
Okay. So I looked it up as well, and there was a news story that the current sitting president of America sincerely looked into implementing the Fisher Protocol, which is
the
terrifying.
Same person who said, "Why can't we just print more money?" and "Why can't we shoot nukes at people we don't like?" and all this sort of stuff. So yeah,
well,
a worrying life.
That sounds like the kind of thing that the only reason he wants to do it is because he just wants to murder someone before he sets off some nukes, which is terrifying.
Yeah, kind of. Yeah, I'd cut a person open, no problem. So
let's do it.
That's your premise, and of course, because the volunteer is Kevin Harvey, and he has the biometrics that will get him into the bunker alone with the president, who can then cut him open and fire these nukes. That is your premise. There you are. So they move down to DEFCON 1, and Kevin is locked in, denied his access to speak to Christopher Sunday. So he takes Patty's glasses and looks into them to switch back to Kevin Harvey, who is in like a sniping position across the road from the bunker. And yeah, he enters this bunker. Meg reveals herself as an asset on the inside, working for God / David Burton. She helps Kevin get to the comms room, where he speaks to Christopher Sunday, who again asserts there is no song that will stop the rain. So Kevin Harvey, realising this is a trap and that they want to cut him open to initiate the Fisher Protocol, etc., and he touches at his chest, realising, oh, that's what that scar is. All very cool. I kind of wanted to see him snipe out some security dudes just to see him actually be this assassin man. Because, he killed that dude that came at him in the hotel, potentially, probably. And he pushed a girl in a well. But he doesn't do that much assassinating for an international assassin. But never mind. I guess sniping people would have been expensive.
Yeah.
Yeah, as I said before, the second thud as Kevin Harvey gets in is even louder than the first. I notice he doesn't have to answer the questions to get in, but I guess that's more of a for your security team thing. So yeah, David Burton says how, I've got an asset on the inside, and Liv Tyler shoots two dudes. She gets to do some movie shit, basically. She gets to fire a silenced pistol and kill some people. And I'm not familiar enough with the filmography of Liv Tyler. I don't know if she's shot guns in films before. I would have to suspect probably, but she comes from the movie world, and her getting to do some film shit. It's like, hey, do the stuff you know. I just thought that was a fun little thing to have her come in and do in her final appearance.
Yeah, this is not a show that very often has action. And
yeah, they're weirdly... I don't want to say they're good at it, but they're not bad at it. I kind of, on some level, want to see them make a really shitty, Kevin Harvey movie. That would be fun. In a world where this show was more successful, I'm sure that could have been, a special feature or something.
Yeah, as Damon Lindelof joked in kind of a post-finale thing, he says, if someday Leftovers becomes successful, doubles its viewers from 11 to 22. Which I think speaks volumes about.
Yeah, he knew no one was watching it. No one's listening to this either, but it's fine. So
we have a significant proportion of those 11 listeners, viewers even.
That's true. We probably do. So, continuing the theme that this is a juvenile fantasy, etc. What is the security code for the communications room? It's 6969. Nice.
Yes, this show did that.
Yes.
Because of course this show did that.
So Meg asserts that the GR are liars. They say how they don't feel pain and love isn't real, but she feels pain, and she's in love with a wonderful man, and his name is God. And David Burton, without skipping a beat, says, tell her I love her too. And Kevin shoots her. And he's like, what was that noise? And he goes, you tell me, you're God. And then David Burton says, that's just a pickup line. Sort of, in a roundabout way confirming, no, David Burton was not God. He was a crazy man on a boat. But, think what you want. Speaking of which, I think we discussed off mic that, you can explain away everything in the show with some logic. And one big question mark was, if Kevin has never met this David Burton fella, how come he casted him as this higher power in his International Assassin episode on the karaoke thing, and then he later turns up in the real world claiming he's God? Well, as we know, John was watching on TV the story about David Burton. I would imagine if that happened, that would be on the news a lot. It would be in papers. And we can just assume that Kevin, internalised this the way he
was also
didn't realise he knew that stuff about Patty, and then he did.
He was also apparently a commentator at the Sydney Games.
Exactly,
so it could be that Kevin just really fucking likes the Olympics.
Yeah, Kevin's an Olympics nut. That would make sense.
I mean, you have seen his abs.
I have seen his abs and his dong. So Kevin admits that he doesn't believe there's a song that can stop the flood when Christopher Sunday says all that. And Christopher Sunday says, then why are you here? So sort of repeating this question of, why are you doing this? Really think about it, Kevin. What do you want to get out of this holy mission? And I took, and he says, I don't believe there's a song that can stop the flood. So he doesn't even believe it's real. He's just doing it because he's being told, basically, and pointed in this direction, and he doesn't know what he wants, so if he does what someone else tells him to, maybe that'll give him some fun or happiness or something. So, Kevin Harvey is detained by security. He looks into some glass, returning to the president's body. So that is sort of the dominant Kevin. And then Kevin Harvey is brought into the room. They are face to face with Patty locked in a room. And they begin the Fisher Protocol. Patty hands Kevin a scalpel. And the two Kevins have a big argument before realising they must go through with it. Now, there's a lot here. So, I fucking love Kevin smashing Patty's glasses to pieces just so violently when she asks for them back. I think that's great. Like, the pure contempt he has for her. When he fucking summoned her there, I love it. I love that kind of adversarial but necessary relationship in fiction. Patty confirms that Kevin summoned her back by naming her secretary, and she's like, you helped me, Kevin, and now I'm here to help you. What do you want? So they keep asking this question, and he says, I want to go home. And she says, do you? Because, he runs away a lot, and he's said things like this, but he does constantly run away and blow things up. Not literally. Possibly here. And she says very poignantly, this sounds like something you need to work out with yourself. And then in comes Kevin Harvey. So we're going to literally have the two sides of Kevin's personality, or the two sides of his inner turmoil or whatever, hash it out and finally put to bed his personality issues, maybe.
Yeah, because ultimately, they're the same person.
Exactly.
There is no difference. They don't make a point of differentiating, apart from physical appearance, between these two characters.
Yeah.
This isn't like his id versus his ego.
I don't know, they do have Meg say how the president is, really cold and stuff, and it seems like the president is the one that wants to run away, and Kevin Harvey's the one that wants something nice. I don't know. I don't know. They share some traits, but that is the one instance where I think they try and differentiate them. But anyway, I love when Patty's explaining the Fisher Protocol, and she says the volunteer will receive a medal applicable, a posthumous medal applicable if Congress still exists, which it will not. May God have mercy on your soul, if there is a God, which there is not. Just this. I love that, and that would genuinely be drafted into something like this. Like, if there still is a Congress, and then just her being who she is, being like, there won't be.
I think that now is an important time to say that line delivery. This is the only Emmy nomination the show received, was Ann Dowd in a guest role for this episode.
Oh, wow. Did she win?
No, she didn't.
Who won?
Oh, let's look this up. She did win an Emmy that year.
For Handmaid's Tale?
For Handmaid's Tale, for supporting actress. She lost to Alexis Bledel for Handmaid's Tale.
Oh, okay. So the show she's on.
The show she's on. So
the show she left this show for.
Yeah, essentially. They won.
Yeah.
I think, Handmaid's Tale won the lead actress, guest actress, and supporting actress Emmys that year.
She is great here. I can see why she got the nomination. It's getting to show off that she is this playful person who can bounce off other people's energies and stuff, and they cast her for such a dour role, and one where she doesn't speak, and then after they killed she has the amazing frank conversation with Kevin before she kills herself, and then since death she's just been really funny and pithy and facetious and whatnot, and it all comes to a head here with this just contemptuous performance and stuff. I love it.
I do want to say one thing about the Emmys.
Sure.
If Ann Dowd had won, then the back-to-back winners of the Guest Actress Emmy Award would have been Margot Martindale, followed by Ann Dowd.
Ask questions. So, Kevin Harvey says he wouldn't volunteer. Why would I volunteer for this? And she's like, I don't know, why would you? And he's like, I wouldn't. And Patty says that, knowing what is inside of him, he kept moving forward to the one person powerful enough to take it out, to come here. And I read this as a metaphor for sort of the depression he holds within him, or that kind of thing. Knowing that he has runaway tendencies and that he wants to kind of run away and be by himself, he did keep putting himself into environments of family. He created the family with Laurie, and then when that all sort of dissolved, and he kind of had this chance to be free, he then made a new family with Nora and Jill and Lily. And, he's come to Australia and, he's signed up for this crazy mission. It's that as well. Knowing that you are the person that does this thing, and that you potentially don't want to do this, you've come to the people that will let you do it and stuff. So I took it as that kind of double thing, or if not his depression, just sort of this personality trait is toxic and destructive. Knowing you have that, you have entered into situations where that is going to harm you, kind of thing.
Yeah.
So she reveals that, she's like, I hoped it wouldn't come to this, but the president was keeping a secret journal. Patty had to read it as a matter of national security. And it is, lo and behold, the same shitty romance novel that Kevin Harvey was writing. And yeah, so she starts reading it. But while she goes to start reading it, but she says, sorry, I just need my glasses, and starts slowly trying to piece them back together. And Kevin just goes, for fuck's sake, and takes the book. And we get more terrible reading aloud from Kevin.
Look, it's not a leftovers end of season point if Kevin doesn't do some terrible reading.
I just really love him being just so angry at, like, little things, Like, I don't encourage anger, but, like, he is very funnily angry, I think, a lot of the time. Anyway, so he's told to skip to the last page because it's better, and it's a description of an old boat that could let him escape, and then we get this flashback of him wearing his wedding ring. So, he was wanting to escape his marriage, his family. He labels himself a coward, and we see the shot of him with the bag over his head. Like, he knows it's cowardly to, like, seek out this escape world where he can feel alive. He says how he's in the uniform of a brave man, and we see him bearded in Jarden. I'm glad they chose that over season 1, because, come on, bearded Kevin is sexy. And then it says how he was terrified of her, to lie beside her, to be comforted by her, to show her he was small. All he knew to do was to run. And then they show him exiting the hotel room in Melbourne after the big argument with Nora. And then it's like he was alone and all was well. And yeah, that's a pretty accurate sort of summation of the toxic behaviour of Kevin, the bad side, the self-destructive habits. And hearing himself say it, the volunteer side of him just is crying and just says, take this thing out of me so we can never come back here again. So it's this recognition that, hey, fucking stop doing this. Go and be with Nora, basically. Or go and live. Like, stop trying to run away. Stop sort of flirting with suicide or, like, leaning into your depression. Like confront this and let's stop this now. Very powerful, very well done. And, like, there's something to writing something that, like, sounds wanky enough that the person that wrote it would be like, this is great, but is actually a bit shit, but then making it seem better by pairing it up with those images from the previous episodes. I thought it was really cool. And it sort of was evocative of the karaoke where, like, they showed the flashes that went with the lyrics and stuff, and, it's another one of those episodes. So, yeah. Really good stuff, I thought.
The show has leveled up his editing game.
Yes.
We've mentioned this before.
Yeah. So, yeah, when he goes, he does this. We get God Only Knows What I'd Be Without You playing. They needed Brian Wilson's permission to use the song, obviously, and he only consented after they explained the scene. I would have loved to have been in the room as they explained this scene in a bubble to a man that has clearly never seen their show before.
I'm fairly sure most musical artists who are featured on this show have never seen this show before.
Oh, of course not, but I doubt many of them needed a scene explained to them. Actually, I don't know. I wonder if, like, lawyers want to make sure you're not going to, like, play the song in a way that makes the artist seem stupid or something. I don't know.
Yeah, I think like they had a similar moment with Madonna where they got really close. Her, yeah. We want our main character to sing karaoke to Like a Prayer.
But yeah, just this really, like, old-timey, happy, upbeat... Well, I mean, it's not happy, it's melancholy, but on the surface, the Beach Boys, it's this sort of gentle, old people music, if you want to say it like that, but it's put with Kevin cutting his doppelganger open with a scalpel quite graphically and, like, rummaging around in his chest to get this launch key out. And Kevin Harvey's final words are, "We fucked up with Nora." So just really confirming they are the same person. It's just, perspective or whatever. Yeah, very powerful stuff, and not something I saw coming that they would do that, but there you go.
They did. I was watching it with my partner, and she only commented twice throughout the episode, which she'd seen before. Yeah. First was at the beginning where Justin Theroux's standing naked, and you just get to see all of him. Yeah. The second comment was when his hand is inside the other Kevin, and it's like he's a puppet.
Yeah, kind of. Didn't she say "how" at something once? Like when you saw all of his abs, she said "how" or something.
Yeah, she did.
She's a good person. I like her.
She is a good person.
So, coming out of this horrific scene, Kevin orders the launch, and he and Patty stand on a rooftop holding hands, watching nuclear missiles rain down on the city as the scene turns all white, and Kevin awakens in the real world under a white sheet with the sun shining, the storm has passed, John and Michael are sleeping in the sort of makeshift church, and he goes to find his father, who's sitting up on the roof, and they sit together there, and Kevin Sr. just says, "Now what?" And then we go to credits. John and Michael asleep is a nice little moment. Like, we know that John had a difficult relationship with his family in season 2, and like he seems to be a nicer person now, and Michael still lives with him and it seems all happy, but you don't get a huge amount of affection between the two, so I thought it was nice to see that, like, sort of reverting Michael back to a child in some ways and the most nurturing thing. The shot of Kevin Sr. up on that rooftop and the sort of drying up stormy surroundings, beautiful. And, you know, I saw this in the trailer. I'd seen this image in isolation a bunch. I'm pretty sure it's been on that, like, One Perfect Shot Twitter account. Gorgeous. Those two sitting on the roof.
Yep. I think now's the time we can mention this little plot point. Apparently, post this, Grace does go to prison. Kevin Sr. does not.
Oh, why?
Because I think they just said, "You're nuts, leave the country."
You know what? That might be fair. And our end credits music, I should have looked up the name of the song, but one of the lyrics is basically, "It's the end of the world because you don't love me anymore." And, you know, this is supposed to be the, oh shit, it's all going down and Kevin has to prevent the end of the world on the 7-year anniversary with his magical, mystical quest. And, you know, maybe him launching the nukes is what did that, arguably. But while we've averted a very literal end of the world, it was never about that. It was always about Kevin and Nora. And that will be very poignant as we discuss the finale in a moment. But yeah.
Oh my god, you can't even, like, pretend you care.
No. So the anniversary came and ostensibly nothing happened. Like, Matt, one of the most sort of prominent sort of espousers of something's going to happen, even said, hey, nothing will probably happen. And while the number 7 is sort of sacred in various texts, plenty of numbers are sacred in different texts. And why would something happen on the 7th anniversary that didn't happen on the 6th, or the 2nd, or the 1st, or the 3rd? Who's to say something won't happen on the 10th, or the 100th? So
time is a man-made construct to how we measure it.
Like, a flat circle.
There is no reason why 365 days is significant to anything other than the human race.
That is very true.
The fact that every 4 years it's 366 days speaks volumes about
yes.
how fucking pointless this whole thing is.
Yep. The fact that the date is actually different in different parts of the world and they put all this importance on the 14th and stuff. So just before we move on to the finale, like, my initial reaction when I watched this was, I think I even said exactly this to you, well, it's no international assassin. But honestly, after seeing it twice, you can't replicate the shock of seeing Kevin die and then the next episode, this just high fantasy, really weird bullshit that's happening in the hotel where he has to LARP his way back to life. So that will always be like the episode, but this is a heck of a lot of fun, and I don't want to like directly compare, but I really enjoyed this episode, and we'll say something else about that later. But yeah, I'm a big fan of this.
Yeah, like, it's a really nice kind of like final part of a trilogy. Like, yeah. I know the season 2 finale isn't really the same thing because it's only the one scene.
No, but like you really remember Kevin going back and doing the karaoke, and like that's the scene that stands out from the finale.
Yeah, and I do
arguably the show.
Yeah, it's such a fantastic scene, that karaoke scene. But like, I still really appreciate this episode. Like, this is a hell of a lot more crazy in some ways than the first one. Yeah, it's
just really blown out. It's like, fuck it. Like, we've done this a bit before. This is our final hurrah. Let's do a really big, silly one. And they do. And like, this is the big, pompous, like, this is your purpose, Kevin. And like, they're like, here you go. Fucking run around to be president and an assassin.
Yep.
Okay, so here we are, the final episode. We open season 3 with the Book of Kevin, so we must close with the Book of Nora, the stealth main character of the whole show. First broadcast June 4th, 2017. Story by Tom Spezialy and Damon Lindelof. Teleplay, Tom Perrotta and Damon Lindelof. I mean, it's pretty cool that the guy that wrote the book and has stayed on through the show gets to contribute to the send-off, I think. And Mimi Leader, who else to direct you out here? And your theme song is Let the Mystery Be, the season 2 theme. And I don't know, on some level, I kind of wanted every song to be different and not to have the repeats, but it's kind of fitting to, do your 6 sort of guest songs, or 5, and then, close with the 2 season credit songs. So here we go. We open with Nora recording her little video testimonial ahead of using the machine. I really don't know what to call it. It's got a name, and I never bothered to learn it. She's briefed on how the machine works, and after saying her goodbyes to Matt, she begins the process. So when she's doing her little testimonial, like the ones that she reviewed of the 108 people, I think it's 108, 198? 198.
It was a number, I didn't remember the number.
Yeah. To testify, I'm of sound mind, here's today's paper, blah, blah, blah. They demand that she say her children's names because they don't believe her. And Nora says, I don't lie. And that is bullshit. Nora lies all the fucking time.
Yeah, she does.
She lies about dumbass tattoos and all sorts of stuff. But she's just a very proud woman, and she's a very defiant person. She is a woman child. She really is. When they're sort of being shown towards the machine, they carry out this, mould of... It's like a little half orb with a cutout of a person. And Matt's like, was there a person in there? Or is that a person? And they call it a fossil. It's basically like an empty shell. It's very, haunting that this is what Nora will end up like. And when they're explaining how it works, they have this little doll that they put in there in the exact pose. I think that's pretty cute. They've stressed that
I love how low budget it is, though.
Yeah.
It's
you've got all this equipment, and you can't, have, a video demonstration or a CGI mock-up or something.
Do you reckon what they're doing is actually illegal and they're being chased for it?
Yeah, it's super illegal. They're asking for all this money in cash, and they keep moving the machine. Oh, if it was legal, that's the part of this that doesn't make a huge amount of sense to me. Are they asking for the money so they can afford to use it? Are they trying to be altruistic and offer people that want to go the chance? Is this some sort of, hey, we should make a buck off this kind of thing?
We don't know how much it costs for the liquid.
That's true. It's like water, but it is not water. They stress that they can hear her, she can hear them. That might be important. And they also tell her not to ingest any of the liquid. Also important. So before she goes in, Matt and Nora have their little send-off, and they spend it playing Mad Libs, or as she calls it, Matt Libs. And it's so pure, seeing these two just have fun together, and it's got this sinister undertone of it, kind of being her obituary, even if it is sort of laughing in the face of that concept. But just, Matt has been insufferable a lot of the time, and just getting to see him be her brother and have them have this nice moment. I loved it. It's very, very pure.
I like that she called her children geese.
Yes, she did.
And Matt was a gecko.
Matt was a gecko, which is important because she says, you drive me fucking nuts, but you've always been a great gecko, Matt. And that's just great. Matt, when she was little, called her the bravest girl in the world. And I think that actually would have been a pretty good alternate title for this finale. To follow up on the most powerful man in the world and his identical twin brother, the bravest girl in the world. I don't know. Yeah, and Matt confesses about his fear of the treatment, his fear of dying, his fear of surviving. And he says his fear of surviving is because how can he stand in front of a room full of people, convince them he has the answers when he doesn't know what the fuck he's talking about. And you can link this to his kind of apparent, if not a total loss of faith, his faith has been shaken a bit with his encounter with David Burton and his sort of wake-up call about how he's lived his life. So there is that, I suppose. So yeah, Nora... Carrie Coon, hat off to her. She does this nude scene. She's been naked in the show before, but this is full on, here I am naked. And she walks into this truck, and as she's walking towards the machine, you hear the last words of her family, as her kids were being annoying and she shouted at them and all of that stuff. You see a few flashes of it as well, but yeah, she gets in the little tank, it starts filling up with this liquid.
You're missing the most important part, Matt.
What's that?
That the Wu-Tang tattoo is
Yes,
visible.
you can see the Wu-Tang tattoo, the Wu-Tang band.
They did not forget.
Of course not. Yeah, so she gets in and it fills up, and at the last moment, she cries something out, and when I watched it the first time, I heard as in potentially stop. And then I watched it again with subtitles today, and it said yes. Now, subtitles often are incorrect, so we shouldn't take this as gospel.
No, this was like some intern at Warner Brothers, like typing up what they thought they heard. They weren't
what
working
are the
from
potential
scripts.
ramifications of yes, though? Like, who knows? I 100% heard and I was like, stop.
It's an intake of breath followed by a rather than a yes.
Yeah, exactly. That's very
Again,
important.
This is like we'd have to see the script really to get a definitive answer on what it says. But I'm pretty sure it says something like Nora makes a noise.
Yeah. And Lindelof actually talks about how a lot of the stuff that happens with Nora in this episode, Carrie Coon would be more qualified to answer than he would. And I think that's really nice that he gives her that tip of the hat. So maybe we should just all go ask Carrie Coon. Anyway, the scene shifts to the one from the season premiere with the older Nora collecting birds, taking them to a nun who refers to her as Sarah, asks her if the name Kevin means anything to her, but this scene continues on past where it ended before, and the nun says that a man named Kevin came asking about her and showed a picture of her and stuff. And then sure enough, Kevin comes a knocking at her door and behaves as though they haven't spoken since the hallway scene in season 1. And he invites her to a dance, saying he regrets that he never asked her before. When we first go to this scene, and you see her collecting the birds, and you see her cycling through this beautiful countryside and all that, it's completely silent, or, other than, like, Foley effects or whatever, but just to really draw this out, like, she's used the machine. This is where you go. What's happening? Is this the future? Is it an alternate reality? And, like, they really draw that out, and they're going to make you, like, wait to get any answers one way or the other. And I think that's kind of haunting. But
so obviously, like, we assume it's somewhere in the future because the age makeup on Carrie Coon is really good. I'm not 100% sold on the wig.
Yeah, their hair is a bit like, but the makeup is good.
The makeup is good. Like, I think everyone's hair in this episode is questionable, apart from maybe Kevin's.
Yeah, he just looks like a silver fox. Well, Justin Theroux's like 47, so not far off graying. Yeah, so after she returns home from talking to the nun, like, she starts going about her business as usual, like she's eating a sandwich, and she suddenly starts packing her bags, and she's got this like huge amount of cash in a jar, and she's like ready to go. And then who knocks at the door but Kevin, and like she has this look of, I read it as fear the first time I watched it, like, oh shit, you're here. And we still don't really know what's going on, and like the way he's like, he claims he was on vacation and he just spotted her, and she refutes the claim because the nun told her like he had a picture of her and stuff. So like on first view, this has this kind of air of mystery, and like perhaps this is an alternate reality where the departure didn't happen, and like this really sad moment where I was like, oh god, is Kevin like a creeper in this reality? Like, is he some like stalker dude who like did something and like she ran away or whatever? But on second viewing, it's very clear what's going on and like what he's doing. It's just, when you know nothing, it's kind of like you're grasping at anything that's in front of you. And I was like, is this heaven? Is it like an ideal world? Is it the hotel land? But this is Nora's version of it. Like, I just really didn't know. But upon the second watch and knowing where this goes, it's like, okay, there's no other way to read this scene than what it is.
Yeah. So I've got 2 points to make about this.
Sure.
Point 1.
Yes.
Whenever I watch this scene, I really, 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 really want to make an egg sandwich.
Yep.
Like,
have it like ooze out of the side, yeah.
Yep. Second point, Nora just keeps on having lots of money.
She's a woman child, Ben. She just doesn't know the value of a dollar and just throws it around and just fucks with people.
Like, her job as professional pigeon tamer apparently has given her enough money to buy a house, which probably in Australia, I'm guessing, house prices are not very much.
I took it more as she does the pigeon thing as just something to keep her busy, and she's been fine for money ever since the departure.
Yeah, but like, if we're assuming that she changed her identity, how has she still got access to this large amount of money? Unless
she took all the cash out. I guess she paid him already, didn't she?
Unless she didn't go through with it and they gave her the money back.
Well, we know where this ends up, so she regains access to that money. Anyway, a very shaken Nora calls Laurie on the phone, who confirms she never told anyone where Nora was. And defiantly, Nora declares she doesn't want to go to this dance, but after briefly being trapped in her bathroom, she decides to go after all, and when she turns up, she learns it's not a dance, but a wedding. So Laurie is with a small girl. We will later find out this is Jill's daughter. But that's just a nice little, hey, I mean, this could still be the afterlife or something like that, or some sort of alternate reality, but ostensibly Laurie is alive. So that's nice. Yeah. Also confirms that they do have their weekly therapy sessions over the phone. After they said same time next week. Sorry, go ahead.
I'm going to read an excerpt from another interview, well, the same interview with Damon Lindelof, just because I think this does illuminate some points on the decision they made with Laurie. Because obviously, like, you watch the end of episode 6, and it very much feels like this is the last time you're going to see his character.
Yeah.
And you hit this episode, and she's back, and it's so very muted. But yeah, so this is Damon Lindelof on it. There are only 2 candidates for the phone call. Erica and Laurie. Then after we watch episode 6, it was very clear to us that it should be Laurie. Then the interview goes, so if not for that decision, would we have ever found out if Laurie came out of the water? We definitely would have found out. I was like 95% sure that Laurie was dead, that the episode would only have meaning if she killed herself. But 5% is not insignificant. And also, no idea divided the writers' room more than the fact that Laurie killed herself. Particularly amongst the 2 writers who wrote the episode, Patrick and Carly Ray, both of whom went along with the plan that Laurie was dead. But then once we watched the dailies, it started to shift away from like 95% and dropped immediately to 50% because it was like Amy Brenneman just doesn't look right now like someone who's about to kill herself.
Are they criticising Amy Brenneman's acting?
No, I think they're saying that she gave something to the scene. It gave her dimension. Like her reaction to the kids.
Yeah.
So essentially, like, they left it open. They didn't go through the idea of using her in episode 7.
Okay, so was that on the table?
I think that was on the table.
Interesting. And they're like, hey, Liv Tyler, you're not doing anything because like your film career isn't the best, so come back. This scene also confirms that they were together, Nora and Kevin. This isn't an alternate reality. Like, things are as we remember them, but he is basically acting as though that isn't the case. And she's like, like none of it happened. And we still, again, I'm going to keep saying this, we still don't know what the deal is here. So it could be Kevin did something or whatever, but no, there is no other way to read that. Like, nothing happened between them, basically. And Laurie asks Nora, why would you call me if you want him to go away? I can't make him go away, so I think you're asking me if it's okay to go to the dance. And Nora's sort of petulant, I don't want to go to the fucking dance, when she's now, like, ostensibly a 50-year-old woman or older, is just great. Classic Nora. Though she has become this bitter old woman, she maintains her fiery defiance. She goes and she takes the bath and, like, she puts this big door back on a hinge and then she's trapped in and she has to physically break it down. I think Lindelof in an interview talked about how this is kind of a metaphor for how she has to, like, confront her problems, deal with her shit kind of thing. Like, she puts this door back on the hinge and then it is weighing her down, so she has to break it off again. I don't know if you have anything.
Are we implying that there's a lot in this episode that could be read as a metaphor?
Yeah, the whole episode is a metaphor, Ben. It's wonderfully artistic.
We haven't got to the goat yet, Matt.
No. This is a very cool wedding. What a cool couple, what a cool venue. I love the song that's playing when she arrives. I'm Out to Get You by Robin Trower. Very cool. This
is how, like, a wedding would be nice, because it's like, it's not like the top 40 hits, it's like just chill music.
Yeah, and
really,
the bride's pregnant and like everyone's just having a good time and they swear a lot and it's great.
Her speech where she reveals that she's pregnant is glorious.
I've got something to confess. I think I'm pregnant.
It's yours, probably.
So Kevin and Nora have a little sit down and talk. Kevin sticks to his story, claiming this is his first time in Australia. Fills her in on life in Mapleton since she left. The married couple encourage everyone to write messages of love, which are released by the birds, the same birds that Nora gathers. I love Kevin confirming that he got invited to this after meeting these two in a bar. Like, because she's like, do you even know these people? Were you even invited? And he's like, yeah, of course I was. And then he tells them everything he knows about them, because it's literally all he knows about them. Yeah, and he just got invited like yesterday or some shit.
I think these two in this scene are just wonderful.
They crush it. She is smiling as she picks apart his story this time around. Like, it's become a more playful thing and less of a, like, you can't be here, this is bad, go away type deal. He points out the hypocrisy of her giving him shit for inviting her to a dance, when she reminds him of the fact that when they, in their second sort of conversation, she invited him to Miami. And I think that's a really great little, well, hold on, lady. Because obviously he's acting strangely and we kind of know at this point he's bullshitting, but yeah, it's just a fun little
Like his I think you've got me confused with someone else.
Yeah, I definitely would have gone to Miami with you. Like,
I love Miami, or is it he say I fucking love Miami?
Yeah, and he's talking about her. Yes.
Yeah, my favourite one of these though is when Laura turns to him and goes, "How are Jill and Tom?"
Do you remember my kids' names?
You remember
it's
my
kind of
kids'
creepy,
names?
but respect. Yeah.
Because he just does not break. He does not.
And he's a very smiley, happy, jokey Kevin. He's very different. It's a little unsettling to her, you can tell. Because, I mean, at times it's like, who would want to be with Kevin? He's such a, kind of a downer, but he does have his moments of levity with her. And, but even so, she's a little bit like, who are you? As he's so happy and, calm.
You get the revelation that Kevin Sr. is still alive.
Yes, well, as I said, he fills her in, and he says how the service for Matt was beautiful. 400 people came. Mary gave the eulogy. It's important to note here that David Burton didn't say he would cure him of his cancer. He said he would fix him, and he ended up kind of with a healthier outlook on his faith and life. He kind of repairs his relationship with Nora. And in this scenario, he ends up back with Mary. He's a popular man of the town, and 400 people in Mapleton came to a religious service when we saw there was no one in the church. So, did David Burton in fact fix Matt? Who knows? Jill is married with a daughter called Penelope. That is the child that Laurie was with. Tommy's divorced, but, he keeps on trucking. Good for him, I guess. So, and she asks, did you never remarry or whatever? And he says, no, because I'm holding a candle for you. And it made me think, the phrase holding a candle is really underutilized, I think. I think it's a really nice little phrase. And he says, people hold candles, Nora. Saying how his dad lost his mum a long time ago and he never remarried because he holds that candle for her or whatever. So I like that. And yeah, as you said, he confirms that Kevin Sr. is 91 and still going. Now, if we assume that Kevin Sr. is roughly the age of the actor portraying him, Scott Glenn, that would put this 10 to 15 years in the future. So, I mean, again, I don't know what the character ages are supposed to be, but that would make the real-life actress Carrie Coon almost 50, and it would make Justin Theroux over 60 years old. They're meant to have gone to school together. I can't remember if they're supposed to have been in the same year or whatever, but I don't know if I quite buy that they're this old looking at potentially 50 to 60 years old, but who knows? I think the wig of Nora is really a bit much, personally.
Yeah. We'll get into the debate about the timeline of stuff.
Okay.
Later on.
Fair enough. Kevin tells her he has an undiagnosed heart condition. He had a very bad heart attack. He's got a pacemaker now. He says, want to see my scar? And you can't help but think of his scar when he was Kevin Harvey and all of that we talked about. Yeah, and
we get final check-ins with the Murphy clan.
Yes, Erica's doing well, and Michael runs the church, and John and Laurie are still married. Everyone's good, basically. Everyone had a lovely, happy ending, including Matt, who died.
Off screen.
Yes. So, this whole revelation, he has this heart condition, and, potentially this is linked to his, crazy behaviours and delusions. I don't know. But this idea that he had a massive heart attack and now he's this kind of chill guy who's kind of got his head straight, that makes sense, potentially putting everything into perspective for him and, telling him what's important. Almost like being confronted by your inner self and cutting yourself open and stuff.
Yeah, he doesn't have the luxury to, toy with suicide anymore because there's a very real thing. Yeah, there's a very real thing that could take it away from him at any moment. He isn't...
Yeah, stop being a
Kevin
dumbass
Harvey.
with, It's kind of like when he barely survived the thing falling out of the sky on the day of the sudden departure. He had been depressed before that, and then that happened, and he suddenly was like, God, I'm so lucky to be alive. And then he immediately launched into a fight with Laurie and it all came tumbling back down. But this is a far more blown out version of that, and he has a permanent reminder of it on his body, so there you go. All the messages on the birds that we saw at the beginning of the episode that Sarah, Nora, has them all in a bucket. They come back to Nora and she just chucks them in a bucket and she reads some of them, but yeah, that's the reality of this. And Eddie the Groom's little speech about mistakes versus sins I thought was really well done. And yes, they, as you alluded, everyone's wearing beads and they put them on a goat, a literal scapegoat, and they represent everyone's sins, and then they let this goat loose into the outback. So, art, I guess.
And then Kevin turns to Nora
yes.
and says, At least they didn't sacrifice it.
It's like, oh, have you seen someone sacrifice a goat? No.
That'd be weird.
So yeah, they dance together, and he continues to maintain that he found her by coincidence, and it's too much, and she leaves in tears. She goes to find her birds, they're not there, so she goes to confront the nun. Then she falls off her bike. Don't worry, we're going to get into the thing you want to talk about. And then she rescues this wedding goat from a fence. It's caught in a fence because of all the fucking beads, and she takes it home. So, the song playing as they dance, it's Otis Redding again. It's the same song that was playing when we saw the little happy family dinner with Jill in the episode Cairo in season 1.
Apparently, the original song was going to be Dolly Parton. Yeah, I Will Always Love You, Dolly Parton was going to be the song that was playing over that. But they were just like, this is too on the nose. So... Yeah,
that would have been a little bit much. In an episode where the theme is I Will Always Love You, to have that playing would be too far.
Yeah.
Scapegoats are fine. But
again, this is a show that isn't particularly subtle at points.
No. We're now getting into the parts where I have some problems. So... she goes to confront the nun, and we see this biker climbing down a ladder out of a bedroom window, and...
You get some, nun.
Yeah, go for you. And, she's confronting her about all this stuff, and, they're talking about how the birds, they have a 50-mile radius, they're not going to fucking fly to Timbuktu and all that, and the nun is trying to give this explanation as to why they haven't come back and all this, and she says, I'm not trying to sell you anything, it's just a nicer story. Remember that quote. The nun lies about having sex with the bike. I mean, it's fairly... obvious she is lying, but she maintains, no, that didn't happen. Oh, no. This scene feels a little bit, I don't want to say pointless, but I know Lindelof loves it as a parallel for Nora, who claims she doesn't lie, and it's a nicer story. It feeds you that line, that kind of thing. So I guess we'll put a pin in that because it's a bigger complaint I have, but.
I mean, it kind of it gets into the theme of this episode that people tell lies.
Yes, they do. They're nicer. It's white lies. It's nicer stories.
Kevin spends almost his entire episode lying.
He does.
The nun is obviously at least partially lying. I'm not sure whether or not I don't believe that she was... just her reaction to when Nora says, you were sleeping with him. I don't know whether or not... That's the thing is that they're all... Apart from Kevin's, who is, quite bold-facedly a lie, everything else there is a degree of...
Well, briefly it could have been plausible, but it becomes very clear this isn't the other side, this is the future.
Yes.
So did the machine send her forward in time? So she stacks it on her bike because she runs over some beads, she sees the goat tied up, and just the audacity of making this goat scene so long and dramatic with the Leftovers drama music playing under it, and then a 2-minute scene, or it's not 2 minutes, but it feels like forever of her preparing it some food and all this. I'm like, this is the finale. You have to close your show. You are devoting all this time to bikers and goats. What are you doing, Damon Lindelof? But
I love the goat scene.
I know you do. She hangs the beads up on a kitchen roll holder that looks remarkably similar to the one that she had back in Mapleton. Key difference, this one is full of kitchen rolls, suggesting some kind of moving on, some kind of closure. So, this is it now. Kevin drives over, he comes clean, he says that he comes to Australia every year looking for her, refusing to believe she was dead. She invites him in for tea and shares her experience of using the machine, claiming that where she went, it was exactly the same, but she came to realise that there, 98% of the people in the world vanished, rather than the 2% here, and she found her family and realised they'd moved on without her, so she was the ghost here or whatever. So she instead went and found the creator of the machine, who we know used it first, and told him everything and convinced him to build another one, and then he eventually did. And keep in mind, it takes a long time to get anywhere in this world because there's a shortage of pilots and stuff. So that explains the time passage, and then she used this other machine to come back, and she basically hid in Australia ashamed, and then Kevin found her because Kevin believes in her. And the show ends with Kevin confirming that he believes her, they hold hands, and the birds come back. And that's how they wrap it all up. So let's talk about it.
So Matt.
Yes.
Do you believe Nora?
I'm trying to cast my mind back to when I first watched this, because I've seen this twice, and there was quite a gap between seeing it. My initial reaction was yes, and then as I got further away from it, I was like, no, I think it's a nicer lot. Or or is that what I think? I don't know, just, we said how when she gets in the machine, we think she's saying, and my reaction was, she said stop. She got them to stop it. And what if all of this is just something she came up with and it's a way she processes it to make herself feel better? She never went anywhere. She chickened out and got out. Matt already said he would tell the people whatever she wanted. She made Laurie swear not to tell anyone she was there. Like, she's hiding. Why would she hide unless she was embarrassed about something? I guess I'm undecided, really. I would love it if that is what happened, but if they did that, I would want them to show me it. And they did, in fact, film... When they were filming the pilot, Damon Lindelof said to Peter Berg, hey, can we film this from the child's perspective, the baby? Like, the mother vanishes, and then you see a guy looking for his son, as opposed to the kid that was looking for his dad. And, like, essentially what this turns out to be with Nora of, like, oh, there, everyone except the departed vanished. And Peter Berg shot them down because they didn't have enough light. And I really wish they had filmed that. I don't even need to see, like, a whole... I speculated, like, what if the penultimate episode is whatever Kevin's doing, and then the finale is Nora going through the machine and we see what's on the other side? And that would have been cool, but that's not what they do. And I didn't need a whole episode there, but I would have loved to have seen this illustrated, because you can show it and still have it be a lie. Like, it could just be like a representation of what she's saying, but we stay on these two having a conversation the entire time.
See, I disagree.
And I know that's what the show is about, and it's been about these little intimate scenes with characters telling stories, but I would have loved to have seen just, even if it is just a 30-second simple version of it, and then have her talk some more. I would have much preferred that to just her saying all of this, because do we believe her? I don't know. And it's... This whole scene reminded me of, like, indie rom-coms where the film ends with just, they have a kind of banal conversation and then they just exchange little looks and then a song starts playing and it cuts to black. Like, I hate those kind of non-endings in these indie rom-coms. It's not like Inception or something like that where there's an air of ambiguity of like, oh, do you think this happened or this happened? It's a kind of different... It's a different sense of, like, non-ending, and that's what this reminded me of, I have to say.
I don't think it's a non-ending, because the show never foregrounded what the answer would be. And I think that's the important thing to make. And I think it's an important distinction too, especially if you're going to compare it to Damon Lindelof's most other famous finale.
Yes, it also reminded... My initial reaction was similar to Lost. I had a sense of... Sorry, no, you go. I just ranted. So.
Yeah, so I love the Lost finale. It is not a perfect episode of television. It is, in fact, the inverse of the rest of the season, where the thing that works best about it is the stuff in the parallel universe, or the flash sideways, as we call them. Spoilers for the final season of Lost. From Broadcast Depth is currently just finishing season 3. They'll be midway through season 4, I believe.
Not when you hear this. Yeah, exactly. When you hear this, it will be closer to the end of season 4.
Yeah, but they will get to season 6. I'm intrigued what they think of the end. But so people's issues with the Lost finale is that the Lost finale, there's a lot of stuff that they introduced late on. There's a lot of stuff that they said wasn't true that is true, and there's a lot of stuff that they don't. Well, no, they never lied on Lost, but people take issue with the fact that they say the show was never purgatory, but then there is a purgatorial element to the finale.
I guess the argument is they weren't in purgatory, but now they are.
Yes, that is the argument, and I will stick to that argument. But there's also, like, unanswered questions, and Damon Lindelof has been adamant afterwards that to get the answers to all the questions that you wanted answered to, we would just have to sit there and have conversations between characters, and that's boring. And
you've assumed a premise where they were forced to... Like, they asked the questions in a lot of ways.
Yes, but that's why I love this finale, is because this feels like his rebuttal to that, which is he's been sat there for 7 years since the Lost finale aired and go, how do I make that conversation exciting? And his way to make that conversation exciting is to not say definitively whether or not we're getting an answer. And when you have two actors as strong as Carrie Coon and Justin Theroux, it's just infinitely watchable. And my gut feeling says that what she's saying is true, despite the fact that the entire episode is filled with people telling lies, despite the fact that when she lists her children's ages, they're 7 years older, but she says it takes a long time to get to where she needs to be, which implies it took a couple of years, so therefore the children will be older than the 7 years. The fact that if they can make this machine so readily on the other side, surely there's going to be the 2% of the world's population who want to go back.
Yeah, wouldn't the man that got, the premise that the man who made it who designed the machine got here, it worked, and he's just sat there not bothering to do anything. Like, the man's a theoretical physicist. His entire thing is to prove things that are thought to be unprovable.
Yeah,
You'd think he would...
There.
Even if he himself didn't want to go back, you'd think he'd tell people that did, because the other side sounds fucking horrifying. Like, it's inverse figures. Like,
I would find Gary Busey and tell him, you can go home.
yeah, it's really inverse figures, because, like, they said the chances of losing anyone you know are so remote, and, like, here, the chances of keeping anyone you know are really remote. And, you know, Nora, she points it out that, like, in this world, her family were some of the luckiest people because they all departed together except for her. And, like, you know, I can see how that would be a way of thinking about it that would make her feel a little bit more at ease with it. But, yeah, that sounds like a fucking nightmare world where there are no families. The GR win.
I have a hypothetical for you.
Yeah.
The smiling woman
Yes.
that has replaced Nora in this world, what are the chances are that she is the person that Kevin was cheating on Laurie with?
Yeah, possibly. Yeah, that'd be good stuff. Yeah. I hadn't considered that, because why would I? But yeah. Yeah, I think the part where she goes and finds the man and he just makes another machine after she turned up, that's where it starts to sound a little bit unbelievable to me.
Yeah,
and like,
there's
also the idea that she died in the machine because she breathed in the stuff, and like, this is all just some kind of heavenly vision or whatever.
See, I wouldn't go that far, because I do think...
But I mean, everything kind of ends a little bit too perfectly for everyone.
But that's why I like it, because at the end of the day, it's so incredible to watch a show where you watch that pilot. If you went and watched that pilot right now, you would sit there and go, fuck me, Carrie Coon is in this for 30 seconds. And you get to this finale, and this entire finale is on her shoulders.
Yes.
Like,
she nails it. Like, Kevin nails it. This is some of Justin Theroux's best acting in this episode. And we've spent 3 seasons saying how good he is and how underrated he is, and how, you know, everyone else is amazing too, so we don't talk about him enough. And, you know, I've spent this whole podcast standing these two's relationship, and you asked me before we started, how can you not love this? It's just 40 minutes of them being adorable. And it is that. I have no problems with any of that. That's all great.
Your issues are more with
that this is the finale. No.
Yeah.
It's that this is your finale. This is your closing message. And, like, the way I made myself feel better about it was to tell myself, episode 7 is the finale, and this is an epilogue.
That is 100% what this is. Like,
yeah,
this is,
and I'm
this
fine
is...
with that. It's just when I watched it and was like, okay, here's the very final episode, here's the answer to what happens when you go through the machine, and then it's just, nothing happened, basically. Or she's either lying, or she went and was like, oh, and came back. And it's like what you were saying about Lost, my counter argument and like the point I had was the way it reminded me of Lost is when I watched it, I was pissed off at this finale. Like, I was angry for like 10 minutes because the immediate feeling I had, and I don't even know if I still feel like this, but my gut reaction was, you've wasted my time. And that's how I felt with Lost to an extent, where there were all these questions and they never answered them. And like you said it, like, you know, there's all these questions and like the idea that they lied to people and this, that, and the other. And like, I don't want to talk about Lost, but I will to an extent, because the show, they can say that show was never about answering questions, but they spent several seasons filling it with mysteries and questions that they never answered. And many people say when they wrote them, they didn't know the answers. They didn't know what the island was, this, that, and the other, and they just span their wheels for a while and did some really amazing television along the way with great character moments, amazing actors, like great stuff. I love Lost. I'm not trying to bury Lost. It's just I'm one of the people who's in the anti-finale camp. And the way this reminded me of that is, this show from the beginning was pitched as, hey, this crazy thing happened, but the show isn't about that. It's about a few small characters in a small town, how they react. Let's psychoanalyze these people, including several people who didn't lose anyone. That's all fine. It's a beautiful character study. There's wonderful character moments. It's fine for that to be the show. This would be the logical ending to that. My counter-argument is they spent the entire middle portion of this show seeding in, just like with Lost, all this extra mystery with ghosts and magical LARPing hotels and karaoke and earthquakes and is Kevin immortal and all this stuff and like the mystical place of Jordan when no one went away and David Burton and the lion fuckboat, and is this man God, and all of this stuff that ramped up and up and up and up. And I know it's kind of, they telegraphed it with Kevin Sr. with like, oh, everything you thought isn't true. Like, you've been following this path and it's all bullshit. And I guess that's, that's where it all ends up. And like the kind of message behind the show of all of this stuff is inconsequential, and it's actually just about this. But that was my gut feeling in the moment. I've moved past this feeling of anger and betrayal and wasted time, but that was my immediate thing of like, this is your finale. I don't get to know. None of this mystery went anywhere. None of these like otherworldly things meant anything. And they just have a little conversation, hold hands, and then some birds come back. And in the moment, that pissed me off.
See, but that's where I fundamentally disagree, is that you're coming from the idea that all of this was wasted time. But it's like, no, because they weren't using all the stuff with the other world to be, is Kevin the Messiah? They were using it to be, hey, this person is dealing with his mental health issues in a negative way. And it's that kind of stuff where it's like, we've been talking about how every single part of Kevin's delusions has a real world
and
explanation to it.
I've had some fun playing that game with you of like, all right, let's explain around this ostensibly supernatural thing. And like I said when we started, I don't know if at some point in my life I did learn that you never find out where they went or something like that, but I was like 60-40 split that you never find out what happened to the departed, and it's not about that. And that was the line I've kept throughout this, and you arguably never do, and potentially Nora's lying about where they went.
Yeah, I mean, I do think that's something that you're missing out on, is the fact that in interviews, and I probably should have, like, when you said you didn't want to find out, I was like, oh, but no, this was a very important thing that Damon Lindelof said.
Yeah.
Quite often was that we were never going to find out. The show was not about this. And I mean, that's where I was coming from, is when we got to the finale and the last scene of the show was Damon Lindelof offering an explanation for it. I'm just had to go like, what the fuck are they doing? This is not how I expected the show to end. Because I was sat in a hotel in France the day after my friend's wedding, like watching this episode in just buckets of tears, alternating between being crying and just being overly jubilant that this was how the show was ending. This is where the show was going. The show was saying this thing all along. It lied to us. The show did lie to us in terms of, if you read the promotional material about, we're never going to give you an answer, and then at the end they gave us an answer.
Or did they? We get one person said a thing to another person, like, yeah,
but that's why I adored it. It is, and I think that is a core difference, is that like I watched the Lost finale and again, I'm in tears because all the characters are interacting. It's the culmination of 6 years worth of these characters' lives and emotions. And
I don't remember the intricate details of Lost enough to conjure up like a great argument about the finale, but that is kind of that's kind of a like one sentence summarization I had in my head when I watched it of like, so all of that was just bullshit or whatever. I don't know, but
I know a lot of people who feel like they wasted time, but it's like every single time they say, I wasted time, it's just like, but do you not remember this episode and this episode? Yeah. And like, it's not wasted time because
that's the common thing of, hey, I didn't like how it ended, but I enjoyed the journey or whatever.
Yes.
Like, this is a discussion I've had on a podcast at some point about, it was 3 people discussing some of their favourite shows, and someone brought Lost to the table, and one person was vocally like, fuck that finale, they wasted all of our time, etc. And I was actually on the side of, hey, but it doesn't take away that this was one of the biggest shows ever, everyone was talking about it, all the memories, blah, blah, blah. So I was actually on the opposite side of the argument I'm having with you now. But,
yeah,
I don't know, and again, I've made my peace with it and moved past it, but just that was my raw take of like, you fed me all this shit with lasers and the demon Azrael and all that, and if you truly didn't want your show to be about that, why did you put so much of it in there?
Because they were doing this thing where they were like, this is how people would react. This is what people would do. People would come up with an explanation. If something like this happened, if something this biblical in magnitude would happen, people would try to rationalise it. And the way that they rationalise it would not be rational. And that's...
I'm fine with, like, other characters exploring these ideas, but to have, like, your main cast be the people who are like, oh, but maybe Kevin is Jesus. And, like, they basically definitively show Kevin surviving a massive gunshot and being poisoned and buried alive.
But the thing is, we don't know that he was poisoned. We don't know where he was shot. The bullet went clean through. Yeah. Like, there's all these different things where it's just like the characters believe this because that's how it's presented. But there are ways that it could be true. And
again, my phrasing of like seeing this as an epilogue made me feel infinitely better about it, because I do
think it's an epilogue.
I guess I just want really big, grand finales to things that have a lot of build-up. You know, like, it's all leading to this. I want something huge for it to lead to. So in those ways, The Most Powerful Man in the World and His Identical Twin Brother satisfied that for me. Like, that was the big, crazy mysticism. Is it real? Is it not? That was all there.
The episode about the ostensible lead of the show.
Exactly. So that's all. That would have been cool for me as a season finale. Like, you would have needed to add a little bit on the end, but yeah, this was all the leftovers I had left, if that makes sense. So that's why I got pissed off when like the goat scene dragged on forever. I'm like, guys, you are running out of time to like tell me things, and that's just how I felt. And like, everything you said makes perfect sense, and I realise I'm like wrong about this, but just that was my raw reaction in that moment. And like, it doesn't take away from how good this show was the whole time, and like how I have discovered how amazing like 4 or 5 actors were that like I knew their names or I'd seen them in some stuff and I was like, yeah, they're fine. Now I'm like, God, Carrie Coon and Justin Theroux are like some of the best actors in the fucking world right now. Like, Regina King isn't someone I'd like really heard of that much, and now I'm like, fuck yeah, she's giving me Watchmen, bring it on.
Yeah.
And Scott Glenn, like, I fucking thought Stick was terrible. I was like, why are you obsessed with this fuck? And then, oh, he's great, that's why.
Yeah.
It made me think Liv Tyler's a good actress.
Yeah,
me.
this show
sometimes.
This show was special. It confirmed for me, because there was an issue for me going into this where I loved Lost. And that's something that is like it was like my first TV show.
Yes, you are a broken clown boy because of Lost.
Yeah, exactly. Like I started watching Doctor Who probably a bit before Lost, but Lost was like the first TV show that got its claws in me, and I owe so much of like my TV watching taste to Lost. And so Damon Lindelof wrote some shitty movies after he finished on Lost.
He sure did. I think I've seen most of them.
He wrote some shitty movies, and it was that kind of like fear that, oh, is he going to be a one-trick pony? And then this show came out, and I don't think season 1 is perfect. I still had it my number 2 show of 2014 because of the emotions it gave me.
Yeah. I wonder if I would like season 1 a lot more now I've seen seasons 2 and 3.
It's an interesting one. I think in the interview that I've been quoting from today, Damon Lindelof says he doesn't think the season gets good until Mimi Leader joins the show. And he says, like, there are 5 episodes that are as good as later seasons, but there's also 5 episodes that are categorically not. Which is
like, The Garbies at their best is one of my favourite episodes of the whole show. And, like, I don't know if that's even the strongest one of season 1. It's just something about it. It was the complete sort of change of how it's sort of foreshadowing what they do with the crazy Kevin is on the other side stuff in a way, but in a much tamer way of like, oh, here's a complete tonal shift and characters playing different roles almost. So that's really memorable for me. But like this show is fucking great, and I think because I'm a movie guy and you're a TV guy, like finales and final scenes, I think we're coming at them from different ways. And I've just said how like that trope in indie rom-coms annoys me, but like I don't know, it's different tastes, and like it can't ruin it for me.
I think it comes to another point, which is like thematically, character-wise, Damon Lindelof writes characters in a long-form entertainment that I very much attach myself to. And
I think I just need a film to end on like a big, or I need a story to end on like a big thing, as opposed to that's all over. Now let's have a quiet sit down about it. Like, that's not as much for me. So that's why
I'm now terrified when you watch The Wire.
I'm never going to watch The Wire.
Every final episode is very much a quiet denouement.
Oh yeah, because when we were brainstorming a Batman show, you gave me that idea of like, and then every season's final episode would be kind of like a separate, detached breather thing, and I liked that idea. And I've just seen it, and I don't like it, apparently. Anyway.
I'm very much excited for Watchmen now.
Yes.
Definitely.
I probably would have been interested anyway because of just the general interest in Watchmen, but having seen this and knowing this team is behind it, I'm like, fuck yeah.
It was the thing that got me to change my background from being the picture of Patty and Kevin stood on the top of the building with the nukes coming down. I've now got the teaser photo for Watchmen because I am a Lindelof stan, apparently.
Apparently. You fucking love all those movies. I didn't really bother to write character rankings because I just assumed this discussion would consume us, the whole world, the universe as we know it, the other side where 98% of people vanish.
I mean, I think I'm just going to make an assumption, okay, and we'll leave the middle because it's very much like there's only really.
We'll let the mystery be.
No, there's only two characters really to get much to do in these last two episodes.
Nora number 1, Kevin number 2, yeah.
Exactly, and then in last place is Matt.
Yeah, there you go. I will say Matt's final appearance is more favourable to me than his penultimate appearance. I don't know. Yeah, like, what a special pair of characters Kevin and Nora turned out to be. Like, Kevin, for all of his many faults, just evokes such sympathy, and you root for him, even though you probably shouldn't.
He's a dog murderer.
He is a dog murderer. His very first action, I was like, Ben, I'm not going to like this show if this is my protagonist. And Justin Theroux is just so good in this final episode, and the whole, you know, he's charming in a way that Kevin isn't normally charming, and the whole thing about, you know, his lie and like holding candles and just him warmly telling her about what happened to everyone. And I don't know, he just takes on this, I know he's had this mystical quality in a more literal way, but he takes on this sort of Zen aura of like, I have all the answers now, don't you worry. And it's just great. And then Nora continues to be this kind of, I hadn't said it before this episode, but I've now said it like 6 times, but yes, this big woman child who is, you know, she is a grown-up, but there are many ways in which she is very petulant and like impulsive, and it's that Batman thing where like losing everything kind of freed them, but also put them into this state of permanent childishness in some ways, but presented through the scope of seriousness.
She was awful. She was never nominated for an Emmy.
Yes.
And the Emmy she was nominated for was for Fargo, but Fargo had the indignity to air up against Big Little Lies, which is just full of lead actress performances that are going to get more attention.
Makes me want to watch Fargo again now that I really love Carrie Coon. Because this Carrie Coon is pretty good, isn't she?
Well, speaking of Fargo, I do have one last quote from the interview with Lindelof that I just want to read to you, which clarifies something that you asked earlier on. So Lindelof says, "In fact, when I watched the first episode of Fargo, when the door wouldn't open for Gloria, I texted Carrie and I asked, 'So is this a running gag?' She said, 'All season long.' I said, 'Did you tell Melba about us?' And she said, 'No. Should I have?'"
So it's a complete coincidence that
Yeah.
2 shows had her written as not being able to use technology.
Yeah.
Amazing. I also really want this cast to continue to text each other and Damon Lindelof. But, hey. Thank you for eventually bullying me into watching The Leftovers and framing it in such a way where I couldn't resist. We've survived October 14th. The world was never going to end.
I mean, it might. It is only, to date this, September 19th right now.
Wouldn't that be fucked up if in the show the world didn't end, but then on the date that the final episode was set, the world does end? Because no one's been out there being a stand-in Jesus.
I got to watch this show multiple times. I will feel like my life is complete. The only thing that I will regret is that I will not have played the new Smash Brothers game.
That's true. I think I can complete Spider-Man before the 14th, so that's something. So yeah, thank you for doing this. IntoTheRealWorld.com. I'm sure we'll have another project in the future. We didn't bother to come up with one to like tease for our finale, but we'll be back with more Ben and Matt's Marvelous Journey in the new year. Like Captain Marvel's coming, and another Avengers movie, and we never gave you our thoughts on Ant-Man and the Wasp, but that will be coming as well. So yeah, that's the future, and between now and then I'm sure we'll come up with another long-form podcast for us to do.
Will the Matrix podcast have aired by this point?
Basically, I hate editing to an extent, so editing 2 things at once wasn't something I enjoyed, so I basically sat on 4 episodes of The Sky Scorchers with Mike Thomas, where we'll be talking about The Matrix 1, 2, 3, and The Animatrix. That will be the next.
And the Enter the Matrix cutscenes, which you both watched in full.
I tried. I really tried. Mike Thomas hates video games, dancing, and seasons 2 and 3 of The Leftovers. He is a profoundly wrong person. IntoTheRealWorld.com, Mike and Matt on SoundCloud. And yeah, thank you everyone. Let the mystery be. Thank you, Ben.
Thank you, Matt.
Goodbye, everyone.